Make every night a wonderful journey, no matter where you are. Good night, sweet dreams. The first story, The Glass People. In 1912, a scientist by the name of Vladimir C.H. Mindersmith had a rough day. He felt as though his life could not be accomplished. The town where he lived was already beginning to plan a revolt against the man for all the trouble and suspicion that he has caused on the townspeople. He never truly had an easy life, and was beginning to lose all hope of making the world respect his work. Some would say that it was pure insanity, that the man should be sent to a mental institution. His own ex-wife had even pleaded to the town's government to banish the man from the town and lock him up somewhere he can never escape from or harm anyone ever again. Vladimir had had enough and was on the verge of his breaking point. He had already felt everyone's suspicion when he came out of his house one day with his left leg cut off. Vladimir got up from his parlor one afternoon. To go fetch a drink of water from his kitchen. He hobbled over, trying to support himself with only one leg. He had no walking stick. He just walked over there with no support. He opened up a cupboard to get a glass cup. Once he did, he went to his sink and filled it to the brim with tap water. He began to take a sip before he felt his head spinning. He felt as though he was about to vomit. He soon toppled over, dropping the glass of water onto the ground. He was unconscious for about 3 hours. Vladimir awoke and cursed under his breath when he found out what had happened. He got up and was furious when he found a broken glass cup on the floor and water spilled over his nice kitchen floor. He grabbed a pan and broom and cleaned up the glass. He then got a cloth and began to soak up the water. Through all of this, he wished that inanimate objects were not so fragile, that they could be like humans and not break so easily when dropped. That is when he began to come up with an idea. He went into his laboratory. Located at the basement of his home, he worked day in and day out to create what he was dreaming of. A machine that can make inanimate objects to be less inanimate than they should be. In Vladimir's mind, nothing was to go wrong. After months of working, he finally built a machine that looked very much like his designs. He got a nice, clear glass cup and placed it into the machine. He turned on the machine and watched as multiple colors were spewing out of the machine, rainbow lights forming all around the dark room. He couldn't believe it with his own eyes. Suddenly, he was amazed when the machine stopped itself, and no explosions seemed to have occurred. Vladimir was happy when he looked inside the machine and saw that there stood it, a large creature made of glass, a person appearing about 5 feet tall. Average body shaped. Vladimir gasped as he heard the creature speak, though the creature only spoke in mutters, complete gibberish that no one can understand. The thing about it is, once the creature was formed, Vladimir kept it under locks, completely secretive. Yet Vladimir's neighbor, Mr. Bohr, managed to still call the police. The police showed up with a mob of angry townspeople, who soon found out the police were a dead giveaway. Seeing as the only person who was called by the police to be conflicted was Vladimir. Soon, the police gave Vladimir an ultimatum: either he gets rid of the glass person, or he has to leave the town forever. So, when the glass came back to its original form, Vladimir scattered it to the ground and threw all the remaining pieces out. He thought he had gotten rid of the glass person, but he had not. It was precisely the time that Vladimir fell asleep that the glass person came back to life and went to the laboratory. It made more glass people, causing a whole revolt between the humans and the glass people. The glass wars is not definite, though all that is said from it is that the glass wars occurred from 1914-1947. It was a secret war that was between the glass people and the humans. Glasses pretend to be inanimate, then they would attack when necessary. They say that the wars still happen every once in a while, but not as much as before Vladimir managed to disappear through this ordeal without a trace. Some say that he left his home and moved in with his lover that he had at the time. He had 6 children before he passed away in his sleep. Some say that the neighbor, Boar, got angry and killed Vladimir, burying the body in an unmarked grave that remains a mystery. But the glass wars and the people do not. Some, like myself, know the truth. Some might say that this is a made-up myth by some teenagers to scare some children. Believe what you may, but these are the facts. In 1934, a woman named Glenda Smith had reported strange noises outside her house. Her dog barking and growling when she'd gone out to look. She'd seen strange, long shadows on the ground. Her porch light was glinting oddly, reflecting off something she couldn't identify, feeling uneasy. She went back into her home, waiting for her husband to return from his night shift. When she awoke in the morning, she and her husband found the dog missing, droplets of blood spattering the ground. They were to arise the next few nights, reporting a sound like fingernails rattling on their windows. Glenda describing the noise like the glasses clinking together. They also described a general feeling of unease, and the light behaving oddly, seeming to bend in mid-air, almost forming a shape. The visit stopped after a short time, and they were never visited again. A neighbor did, however, report finding the corpse of the Smith's dog, gums lacerated as if by several sharp objects. Fragments of glass were also found in the dog's fur, embedded in deep cuts. In 1976, a man identified only as Terry had reported being followed home from work by strange creatures. He described them as being almost invisible, disappearing in and out of street lights, being vaguely shaped like a man but possessing strangely shaped limbs. He said their footsteps sounded like marbles being dropped. He also described a feeling of foreboding that overtook him, despite the creatures never acting, doing no more than following him. Terry noted that one time after he arrived home, he observed the barely visible creatures, of which he could identify 2, appearing to have a conversation. It is reported to have sounded similar to the sound of someone playing crystal glasses. Running their fingers around the rim, Terry eventually moved, unable to stand the feeling of terror that overcame him. The interest in the glass people continues to live inside of me, and I will not rest until there is some justice behind these truths. The second story, the MP. It was a night. I was browsing the internet for some games to play. I looked at the clock, and the time was 2:57 p.m. The news is about to come on soon. Better turn on the radio. I thought, used to listen to the radio via news. I went to the radio and switched it on. Some music played, and soon enough the news came on. We have detected an EMP wave circling the earth as we speak. It will hit my town very soon. TV and radio signals will be lost temporarily. This EMP wave's origin is unknown, but as pre-soon, the signal started fading into static. Soon it cut off. Just static was the only thing you could hear. Nothing else. I went to see if the internet still ran. It still worked perfectly. I searched on Facebook for one of my buddies, and I decided to tell him about this. Hey, "How you doing, buddy?" I asked, trying to keep the subject for later. "Oh, fine. Just a little worried," he said. "I thought it was that EMP wave." "What about?" "The news said about an EMP wave. It cut off in the middle," he said. I somehow knew it's the EMP. It happened the same way here. Strange. I don't know, but my TV is acting weird. Statics on the screen. Yeah, I have that each time the signal cuts. We both share the same TV service. And that happens when the signal cuts. No, it's not that. The screen is just black, no static. But no noise either. Could be your TV. But I'll take a look. What channel you looking at now? Channel 7. Discovery Channel. I went to switch the TV on, then flipped to Channel 7. The opposite of what my friend said was happening. No black screen or anything, just static. I went to tell my friend, "It's your TV, buddy, there. As static over here. I don't know. I'll switch channels now." After several moments, black screen appears at every channel. It may be your TV. It's like, what, 13 years old already? Yep, but it ran so well. I just hope it won't break. I'll have to get a new one then, and TVs in my area are really expensive. Don't know what to tell you. I'll check my TV again. Oddly, the TV no longer had static, just a black screen, and the TV was on. There was a small light bulb that lit up each time the TV turned on, and it was lit, so I got confused. I decided to tell my friend about it. "Buddy, don't know how to say this, but my TV has a black screen as well." "Well, it's not the TV then." What could it be? I stayed like a statue. Millions of thoughts circling my mind. What if the EMP damaged the TV? Possible, I said. Could be, but the strength of the EMP was pretty bleak. Well, let's hope everything is gonna be alright soon. I'll talk to you later. Buddy, if something else happens, I'll let you know. Okay, bye. I stood at the computer, thinking, but my attention was taken away. As I was thinking, I heard something. A strange noises, apparently, came from the TV. The TV screen was filled with static, but there was some background noise. Soft, but loud enough to notice it was very indistinct. I couldn't really make it out, but something like screaming was the only thing I could hear. I thought that it's my brain. I wasn't like, "Oh shit, what the hell is that?" I just thought it's my head, but I felt the urge to tell my friend. But when I got to the PC, a chat box already appeared. It was my buddy. "Are you there? I need you here now. I'm getting uneasy here." The message on the chat box. "Calm down. I'm here," I said. "Ed, I thought you were gone." "No, I just had something weird happening with the TV. It's that noise from the TV." "I get it too." He seemed to read my mind. "Yes, it is strange. I thought I could hear screaming." "Yes, there is screaming. That's not your head. Strange. I'll keep you posted out." I turned off the TV as the indistinct noise grew louder and more unnerving. Out of nowhere, I heard something like a glass cup break in the bathroom. Silly me. Shouldn't have put the cup on the side of the shelf, I thought. I used to have a small shelf in the bathroom, and I always keep a cup there, which has my toothbrush in it. It must have slid off the shelf. I entered the bathroom, and to my surprise, there was nothing on the floor, not even a glass piece. Even the cup itself was gone. Maybe my ears fools me, but it sounded like it fell from here, I said to myself. I decided to check the kitchen, turning off the lights and closing the bathroom, for in the process the bathroom was extremely cold, and I didn't want to leave it open, or the apartment would chill very quickly. I also take care not to keep useless things on, wasting electricity. I got to the kitchen, and like before, nothing. This is odd. Could it have happened outside? I said. I looked out the window, and nothing at all, not even a single glass piece. Must have been my head. As I walked back to the kitchen, a small light caught my eye. It was the bathroom. The lights were on. I turned the lights off. Before, how could they still be running? I was questioning my sanity now. When I got to the light switch, something was out of order. The light switch had two sides. The left side controls the light, while the other one controls a fan in the bathroom. Good when the bathroom's warm, when you lit a fire in the boiler. The left switch points up when the lights are on. It was pointing down, but the light was running. This is strange, I thought. I turned the switch up, as if I tried to turn the lights on. The bathroom light suddenly turned brighter, then it blew up, sending shards everywhere in the bathroom. Lucky me, the door was closed. The small explosion caught me, as it happened out of nowhere. Then I entered the bathroom. What I noticed was there were no glass shards anywhere. I thought it's because of the low light, but when I turned the hallway light on, then I managed to see into the bathroom with ease. No glass shards anywhere. I checked every corner, but no glass pieces anywhere. The light bulb was still in its slot, but apparently a piece of it was gone. No way the light bulb would work again. If the light bulb blew up, how come there are no pieces around? This was starting to catch up on me. Then I heard door knocks. I thought it is a stranger or someone, so I opened the door carefully. It turned out to be my buddy. "Hey, you didn't tell me you would be coming up," I said in a strange tone, trying to mask my fear. I didn't like being alone after what happened at my place. "You mean something unexplainable?" "Sure, that's not good. Some things happened right here as well. Let's talk, get our mind off of it." He told me about a strange coyote with bloodshot eyes. The coyote appeared to be deranged, according to my buddy. As we were talking, he suddenly turned pale, staring like crazy, as if he looked through me. "What is it?" "You're like a ghost," I said, wondering what's going on. Be behind you." He looked seriously scared. I looked back at the wall behind me, but there was nothing. "There's nothing here." I felt something slide down my spine. Out of the blue, a loud barking burst out from nowhere. We jumped and scattered like cockroaches. "What was that?" I asked, horrified. Sounded like a dog could have broken in. Not possible you would hear it easily. We first thought it was a dog, until we looked out in the hallway from our hiding spot, barely exposing ourselves. It was a huge black dog, like a Saint Bernard, only black. Its eyes, they were bloodshot, completely red. The sights gave me the creeps. "Where did that come from?" my buddy asked. I stood silent. I didn't have the slightest idea until I went into the living room. I grabbed a knife, ready to hit it down. When I entered the room, it was gone. What the? I was half freaked, half amazed. Nothing like this occurred. Then the radio turned on. It's no longer static. It was all normal. After the EMP wave that circled town, we have detected a second, and EMP wave the second one will be stronger. Even though the first EMP wave was bleak, lots of paranormal activity occurred all over the world, and more than 200,000 people around the world went missing. We also received reports of a big black dog with bloodshot eyes, which disappeared when it was followed. Priests believe it is Hell's Hound. Seems like we were not the only ones seeing the sound. "Buddy," I said. Soon I noticed my buddy was gone. I just knew Hell's Hound was out there, but I didn't know where my buddy was. And with the second EMP wave, things will get worse. I know it's out there. The third story, songbirds. I have always loved songbirds. I have always loved any type of bird, quite frankly. That's why, Richard Percy, am a zoologist. I love animals too much to not do something in that field. The pay wasn't great, but being able to live my dream was worth it. Because of this lack of money, I haven't been able to keep a steady relationship, which is a shame because I had always wanted kids. Oh well, too far past my prime now. I looked out over my 4-acre plot of land settled on the edge of West Boylston, Massachusetts, from the porch of my 200-year-old Greek Revival Victorian house. It was moderately sized, certainly big enough for a man living all alone save for his thoughts and the songbirds. I watched as the storm clouds slowly came rolling along the horizon. The land below was instantly cast into shadows and darkness. A shrill rumbling emanated from the direction of the storm. It was a sound similar to the sound a hammer makes when driving nails into a cedar coffin. There I go with my obsession for the macabre and morbid. I say under my calm, stoic breath, which was slowly being taken away as the mockingbirds tweeted despairing, semi-mournfully in the not-too-far distance. When the thunder made a grand crescendo, from the sound of hammers onward to the sound of 1,000 volleys of cannon fire, I decided to head indoors. There I made afternoon coffee and my dinner. I always cooked from scratch out of some stupid fear of being laughed out of town by the snobbiest of the snobby, whom just so happened to live in the same town as I. Christ only knows they would. I chuckled to myself at the absurd thought. Just then the power went out. Great, I thought pessimistically. No dinner tonight, and I sure as hell am not gonna go fix the fuse in this shitstorm. I decided to go to bed. I trudged up the stairs to the bedroom, passing several closed doors that hid nothing but dark rooms and covered furniture. I got into the bedroom and looked at the clock. It said, in blinking lights, 8:30 And never mind. I'm going to LAY in bed and at least wait for the storm to pass, doing nothing but twiddling my fingers and staring off into the dark corners of my room. I lay still for about an hour. Then I hear a knock at the door sign. I dragged myself back downstairs to answer the door. I tried the lights on the way down, but the power was still out. As lightning flashed, the house would light up for 1/10 of a second at a time, long enough to watch the shadows turn to the rotting talons of some long-dead, anonymous ghoul, long enough to see the faces on the family portraits turn into unknown demons, brought to life through the darkest nightmares conjured up by the collective minds of Lovecraft, Poe, Stoker, Hoffman, and Merritt, long enough to see their faces convert into underworldly sneers and grimaces. Fucking with my own head again. I said out loud, "Why do I DOTHAT?" As I made my way down the staircase, the knocking got quicker, more desperate, more anxious. Must be drummers, I joked to myself, mostly to keep my mind off the macabre and morbid that I have gained a love-hate relationship with. I opened the door and I tried my absolute best not to make eye contact with whomever was on the other end of the door. Both in black suits, tall, thin, frail, and pale as all hell. They both stood side by side in a monotone that practically drove me nuts. Lefty said my name, Mr. Percy. I couldn't tell if he was asking or telling me something. Yeah, what do you want? I responded. It was still pouring out. What could be so important that it couldn't wait for tomorrow? We need you to come with us, Righty stated with a harsh tone. They both flashed a badge that said nothing but the affiliation they were within some government seal. You've got to be kidding me, I said then. I read the organization name. Cryptosodalio was all I needed to reiterate, definitely screwing with me. Where's the camera? I insulted them. No camera, sir. We're dead serious. They both stated like a couple of robots. Okay, let's pretend that you are serious. What makes you think I know anything about cryptids? Well, for starters, you are the most qualified, Lefty sneered. Listen, man, I love animals, not stories. You're coming, Righty pitched in. Oh? I asked. It was a rhetorical question. Their answer wasn't so rhetorical. I took a fist to the face. I came around, dizzy and disoriented. Yes, but at least the taste of dirt in my mouth was finally gone. Above the whirring of the helicopter, I could hardly make out a voice. It was soft with a strong undertone. I highly doubt you had to get so violent. The voice, clearly irritated, said matter-of-factly, breaking the long silence. I heard what almost sounded like Lefty to say, our job was to get him over to you, Dr. Matthias. Yes, so we did our job. Don't make us come into yours. The government trusts you. After about a minute of listening to the incessant noise slowly diminishing into the distance, Dr. Witz's face stepped into the tent. Hello, Richard. My name is Dr. Matthias. Please, for the sake of convenience, call me Matt. He held out his hand, half expecting me to shake it. 2 words, I'll know. If someone practically kidnaps me, then expects me to take an instant liking to them, then they have another thing coming. Figuring there's no way out of this, I gave in and shook his hand. Yeah, I heard. I stopped myself short, guessing that he wouldn't know who the hell I was talking about. If I had said Lefty, you heard the agent say my name? He guessed like he'd just read my mind. Yeah, what was his name? He was a pleasurable enough guy. Hey, maybe you can get me his numbers. It seems like the kind of person who likes to chit-chat. So sarcastic. But in case you were serious, I don't even know his name, Matt said with a chuckle. I hope to God that he knew I was being sarcastic. I don't think I'd be able to make whatever we were doing it out alive if I couldn't be sarcastic and not have people know what I was saying. Let me give you a little briefing for the next couple of months we will be working with. Cryptids, I interrupted. Yes, cryptids. But how did you know? Matt's face grew grim, which really unsettled me. I read it on the agent, as badge thing. Alright. So yes, we are working with a crypt. Yet the thing is, we don't know anything about it yet. That's why we're here. Well, if we know everything about it, then it really wouldn't be a cryptid now, would it? I asked, quite condescending. This is true anyways. Get up. I'll show you the rest of the team. Matt didn't need to tell me twice. By now, I'd lost all feeling and my legs and my arms were starting to fall asleep too. I guess that's what happens when a shady-looking government agent knocks you out cold. Outside of the tent I saw countless people either sitting around talking or working the camp. I assumed the later to be interns. I remember how much of a bitch internship was. Let me show you the rest of our team. Matt said cheerily, this is Jessica. Bryce, Doyle, what about your specialties? I wondered out loud. We're all multi-talented. If you ask us to do anything, we'll be able to do it. Zach said, hardly looking up to me. I could tell right now that he was the outspoken one of the group. Good competition. I thought to myself, letting myself smile a little. Well, now I don't think I'm that skilled, so basically you guys are ultra specialists, I guess you could say. Essentially, Bryce said. What are your specialties? Doyle asked. Well, specialty, I corrected. And that's zoology. Bravo. That puts you one step above the peons, Jess said with a wide smile. After no time whatsoever with the rest of the group, Matt brought me around the rest of the camp to continue going into the specifics about what we were doing. For what seemed like hours we walked around the camp. We apparently had to go into every boring little detail. I guess it was the essentials, though. Just before he was through with me, I asked him, why didn't we meet the other groups? His face turned grim once again and he said, they don't matter, you probably will not see them again. To ease the apparent fear that spread across my face, he added, it's nothing like that, they just get extracted at different points in the search. Something about this set of the little rattle alarm bug inside my brain nonetheless. Maybe it was the hesitation in the last sentence that sure as hell didn't help. I guess it was mostly how he said the first couple of sentences. Maybe it's just me, but I don't think of good things when I hear they don't matter, and you probably will not see them again. Somewhat relaxed, he told me to go for a walk, think over my current situation, since it was the only thing I could do about it, and enjoy some more fresh air before dinner. I did exactly as he told me to, with absolutely no qualm on my part. On the edge of the woods, I noticed how much darker it was in there compared to the rest of the area. Taking the step in, the shadows almost swallowed me whole. With barely any light, it took me a while for my eyes to readjust. Everything, and I mean everything, in there seemed dead. Even the songbirds' tunes were dull and half alive. Then it all stopped. The silence was eerie. I think I prefer the morbid, funeral home sounding songs of the birds than that silence. By now my situation was fully forced into my brain. Every disturbance in the silence had a menacing timbre to it. Almost as soon as the silence began, the birds went crazy, singing along as they dive-bombed me from above 3 feet. In front of me the shrubs rustled and I booked it out of there. I have no idea if I had overreacted there, but I was scared shitless. Who wouldn't have run? When I'd gotten back, I told everyone about my experience. They believed encrypted, so judgmental could they be. I told them everything, save for the whole part about me running like a bitch. I was especially careful not to talk about that in front of Zach, and just as I'd tell someone about what happened, their faces would turn stark white. I don't know if they knew it, but I sure noticed. When I'd ask if there was anything nobody was telling me about, I'd always get the same response. Nope. Negative. Absolutely not. Etc., etc. Day 1 was a little scary. All the teams broke off. Team 1 Akas went into the deep woods. Team 2 went into the woods surrounding the lake and rivers. Team 3 went into the caves. All the other teams were completely separated, and in nowhere near the same vicinity as us. We lost contact with Team 3 first. It was reported to us by Matt that their communication systems went down. Well, it was reported to us that way when Matt came out of his tent. where all of communication systems were. He looked dead. Better yet, he looked like his life was forcefully sucked out of him as he sat in front of the radio. We lost communication with Team 2 only about a day. After that, Matt looked worse. Then came the day we lost contact with the world. This time Doyle brought him out, this time dead for real. The blood was still drizzling from the hole in his head. I didn't even know we had guns on this trip from that point on. We each had one though. For weeks we'd search for a way out of the woods. Rations were running low, and we passed Team T's campsite without looking for food. We could see the red from where we were. It was carnage down there. Jess was sobbing non-stop. I normally would have felt bad, but Christ, we're in a survival situation. All noise in the forest stopped completely. By now there was no sound. No life in there, with the forest completely devoid of anything living. I knew that we were still not alone. I'm sure every single one of the others, all four of them, knew so too. Zach took charge, go figure. For all the time that he was alive, he did pretty good too. At that point the food had run out and he ended up making a good hunter. The thing to watch out for in a situation like this is your own ass though. No more than a couple of days later, he got separated from the group. The lack of sound in the forest made his screams and cries that much easier to hear. Now everybody was an emotional wreck. Doyle was next in line for leadership. He was scared shitless, but he, surprisingly, wasn't next to die. Bryce went of starvation. He looked like a skeleton by the time he kicked it. For days on end he wouldn't eat. In the day before he died, he claimed to hear whatever was out there stalking us, beckoning for him like a banshee. Next went Doyle. He walked into a cave to check it out, to make sure it wasn't Team 3's cave. I'm not entirely sure if it was the same cave that Team 3 went into, but we never heard back from Doyle, so I guess we'd never know. First the scream came, then the grunts and the ripping sounds, then the roar. Right before the thing came hauling us out of the darkness, all the songbirds started going crazy. The sound was unbearably intense. For days, weeks maybe, we hadn't heard a damn thing. Then in an instant, all these songbirds went nuts, squawking and dive bombing us from overhead. Jess was horrified, and I can't blame her. I would be too if I was getting attacked by sparrows and mockingbirds. Add that to the fact that I was nothing but one step above the interns. If I wasn't already ready to book it out of there, then I saw these two eyes. I guess they were glazed over white like that of a man, centuries old, and blinded for 2/3 of that time. Whatever came running at us from within the shadows sure as hell wasn't Doyle though. Or at least I never had to see what it looked like. I don't know, maybe Jess did. I found her dead, hanging by a tree the next day, written on the last piece of paper any of us had was a short suicide note. Nothing other than the typical "I'm so sorry to have to leave you like this" bullshit, except for the little line that read, I could hear it beckoning to me. Damn, so Bryce wasn't the only one. Damn, there went my last-ditch final dinner. I didn't miss out on the little schizophrenic episodes though. At least that's what I'd labeled the whispers as. I grew accustomed to both the dark deadness of the surrounding woods and the ominous and equally dead-sounding whispers. During the day I'd stay in my tent, and I'd stay put all night, hoping that dying under of thirst wasn't too painful. I was also hoping that the screams were more out of fear rather than agony. It took actually seeing the beast's silhouette outside my tent to finally convince me to get the hell out of there. Sprinting through the woods, I came upon a caved reading going, and I practically had to force myself in there. I hid behind a rock so I could let my eyes adjust, hoping that it wouldn't come up behind me. When they did, it just what I saw horrified me. No Doyle as far as I knew. but I saw what was left of Team 3 all over the walls. I saw Team 3 and more backpacks and hunting gear were strewn all over the cave floor. All that and whatever the thing that was chasing me didn't have much of a taste for, of course. The moldy leftovers, the smell of rot was unbearable. I had to get the hell out of there. I don't think I was ever so scared to hear the songbirds chirping. I knew that, eventually, the singing would cease, and I knew when that happened I would most surely die. The chirping finally did stop, and I think it was the first time in my life that I jumped when silence occurred. The silence was antique, quite silent, though it was quiet but not totally devoid of sound. In the distance I could hear whispering. I could hear, "I am the disruptor." Over and over again it would ring in my ears and resound in my head. "I am the disruptor." It would say, leaning against my rock, clutching my ears, begging for the voices to stop. All I would hear is, "I am the disruptor. I am the disruptor. I am the destroyer. I am the destroyer. I am the destroyer of everything. Anything. I am the collector. I am Diablo." The audible torture was too much to bear. I stood up from my position and walked outside of the cave, waiting for my demise. I remember hearing the birds going crazy again. I remember hearing the helicopter buzzing overhead. I remember the birds quieting down, and I remember hearing the mockingbirds chirping outside my 4th floor hospital window.